The transition is everything. One moment, the world is a cacophony of pounding droplets, wind, and blurred horizons. The next, an almost deafening silence descends, broken only by the residual drip from dune-side grasses and the soft, receding sigh of the rain-flattened waves. This is the instant the beach reveals its new identity. You step onto the sand, and the first thing that strikes you is not the sight, but the smell, the profound, mineral-rich, and utterly intoxicating scent of petrichor. This isn't just wet dirt, it's a complex chemical ballet released by soil-dwelling bacteria, primarily streptomyces, producing a compound called gomen. When rain hits dry ground, especially porous sand, it traps air in its pores, which forms tiny aerosols that carry this gomen, along with oils from plants called terpenes, into the air. On a beach, this scent mingles with the sharp, clean ozone generated by lightning-splitting atmospheric oxygen and nitrogen, creating that unmistakably fresh post-storm aroma. This olfactory experience is primal, linked in our brains to survival, fertility, and the relief of rain after drought. It's the first signal that the environment has undergone a fundamental reset. Then your eyes adjust. The sand, which hours before was a dry, pale, and granular expanse, is now a seamless, saturated tapestry of deep ochres, cool grays, and rich umbers. Every grain is coated in a microscopic film of water, causing it to cling together, transforming the surface from a loose, shifting entity into a firm, sculpt-able plane. This is when you notice the true spectacle, the reflectivity. The wet sand acts as a near-perfect diffuse reflector. Unlike a mirror's sharp reflection, the texture of the sand scatters light, creating a softer, more ethereal duplication of the world above. The brooding, fast-moving clouds, the first glimpses of piercing blue sky, the silhouettes of distant birds all are captured on this vast, temporary floor mirror. This phenomenon drastically alters the light quality. The ambient light isn't just coming from the sky, it's also bouncing up from the ground, filling shadows and giving everything a luminous glow from below quality. It's a photographer's paradise. But more than that, it's a perceptual shift. The horizon line blurs, the boundary between earth and sky becomes ambiguous. You feel simultaneously grounded and enveloped in the atmosphere. This reflective property also changes color perception. The blues of the sky are deepened. The grays of the clouds are more nuanced. And any splash of color, a lone beach umbrella, a piece of driftwood, your own clothing becomes profoundly vivid, its saturation amplified against the monochromatic, reflective background. This initial sensory overload, the smell, the firmness underfoot, the visual doubling of the universe, is just the surface layer. It sets the stage for the deeper ecological and personal narratives that begin to unfold in this interstitial space. The beach is no longer a mere recreational platform. It has become an archive, a recording device. The smooth, wet sand perfectly captures the footprints of every creature that dared to venture out after the storm, the intricate. Stitch-like trails of shorebirds probing for confused invertebrates, the meandering, hieroglyphic tracks of a sand crab, the delicate, patterned impressions of wind-blown debris. Each set of prints tells a story of post-rain activity, a miniature drama of survival and opportunity written in ephemeral script. This pristine recording surface highlights the beach's role as a habitat, reminding us that this landscape is teeming with life that responds dynamically to weather events. The rain has oxygenated the upper layers of sand, bringing dormant microorganisms and small crustaceans closer to the surface, which in turn attracts the birds. It's a sudden, frenetic banquet, a food chain reaction triggered by the change in pressure and moisture. Furthermore, the firm, damp sand is the ideal canvas for human creativity as well. This is the time for intricate sandcastles and sculptures that hold their shape with crisp definition, their moats naturally filling with fresh water and rainwater, creating miniature, temporary ecosystems. The post-rain beach, therefore, is not a dead space waiting for the sun. It is a stage buzzing with renewed biological and artistic activity, all made visible and poignant by that transformative layer of moisture. Delving deeper into this transformed seascape, we must confront the hydrological magic at play. The beach after a rain is a complex dynamic filter, a natural water treatment system in action. As the rainwater percolates down through the sand, it undergoes a remarkable purification process. Sand acts as a superb physical filter, trapping particles, debris, and even some pathogens. But beyond simple filtration, chemical and biological processes kick in. The sand grains are often coated with biofilms, layers of beneficial bacteria and microorganisms that break down organic pollutants and nutrients carried by the runoff. This is nature's own slow sand filtration, a principle that has inspired municipal water treatment plants for centuries. Watching the clear rainwater channels cut through the sand on its way back to the sea is to witness this silent, critical cleansing in real time. These temporary streams and rivulets create beautiful, fractal patterns, miniature deltas, and canyons that mirror the grand geomorphological features of the planet. They carve delicate pathways, exposing layers of shells, different sediment colors, and the hidden architecture of the beach's profile. This runoff is also a vital nutrient delivery system. It carries dissolved minerals and terrestrial organic matter from the land into the intertidal zone, providing a fertilizer pulse for phytoplankton and algae at the base of the marine food web. The rain also dramatically changes the temperature and salinity gradients in the sand. The nearshore water, a layer of cooler, less dense fresh water, can temporarily sit atop the warmer, saltier seawater, creating distinct layers that affect marine life. For some species, this is a stressor. For others, it's a signal to breed or feed. This leads us to the most visible biological explosion, the feeding frenzy. The rain's vibration and pressure change mimic the disturbances caused by predator fish or burrowing animals. Countless marine invertebrates, like clams, worms, and mole crabs, interpret this as a sign to rise closer to the surface, either to escape perceived predation or to take advantage of the oxygenated water. Simultaneously, the rainwater pooling on the sand can lower the salinity in the top layer, causing some creatures to migrate upward to avoid the osmotic shock deeper down. This mass, uncoordinated movement creates a smorgasbord for shorebirds, sanderlings, plovers, sandpipers, and gulls become hyperactive, darting back and forth with mechanical precision, their beaks probing the softened substrate with rapid success. Their presence adds another layer of dynamism and sound to the scene, the soft patter of bird feet, the occasional squawk of triumph, the whirl of flocks taking off and landing. This avian activity is a direct, observable link between a meteorological event and a complex ecological response. It's a ballet of survival dictated by the rain. But the impact isn't just biological. It's also geological. The rain acts as a natural agent of sorting and rearrangement. Heavier materials, like certain minerals or larger shell fragments, settle differently in saturated sand than lighter ones. You might notice patches of sand that are a different color or texture. This is often the result of hydraulic sorting. The storm's energy also resculpts the beach's larger features. Dunes, freshly stabilized by the moisture, have a sharper profile. Small escarpments or ridges, called berms, might be softened or redefined. The rain washes away the superficial, wind-blown top layer of fine sand, often revealing a more compact, shelly layer beneath, telling the story of past storms and tides. This is a landscape literally revealing its history. Furthermore, the post-rain period is a unique window into human impact. Litter that was half buried and ignored in dry sand now stands out in stark, wet contrast. A plastic bottle glistens obtrusively. A cigarette butt is framed by a dark stain. The rain acts as a truth-teller, highlighting the debris we leave behind, and through the movement of water, showing us how it can be carried into the ocean. And those rivulets leading to the sea aren't just carrying clean water and nutrients. They can also be conduits for microplastics and pollutants from inland, making the beach a critical observation point for understanding runoff pollution. Thus, a simple walk on a wet beach becomes a lesson in environmental science, hydrology, and ethics. The clean, reflective surface holds up a mirror, not only to the sky, but to our own relationship with this fragile, dynamic edge of the continent. Beyond the science and the ecology lies the profound, often overlooked, psychological and emotional resonance of the beach after rain. There's a reason this scene features so prominently in art, literature, and film. It is a powerful metaphor and a genuine mental balm. The experience taps into what psychologists call soft fascination, a key component of attention restoration theory. Unlike the harsh, demanding fascination of a bright, crowded beach full of stimuli, loud music, bright cars, social interactions, the post-rain beach offers a gentle, involuntary engagement. The shifting clouds, the play of light on the wet sand, the rhythmic but softened crash of waves, these elements hold our attention effortlessly, allowing our directed attention faculties, the ones we exhaust with work and screens, to rest and replenish. This environment is inherently low-threat and aesthetically rich, promoting a state of mindfulness and calm. The silence, or rather the shift to natural, non-jarring sounds, is therapeutic. The constant, white noise rush of rain is replaced by a more nuanced soundscape. The trickle of water, the distant cry of a gull, the low rumble of departing thunder. This auditory shift signals safety to our primal brains. The storm is past, the dangers receding. We are wired to find deep relief in that transition. The visual simplicity of the scene also reduces cognitive load. The color palette is often reduced to a harmonious range of grays, blues, browns, and silvers. The complex clutter of a busy beach, towels, people, umbrellas is absent. This visual minimalism allows the mind to decompress and wander creatively. Many people report their best ideas, clearest thinking, or most profound sense of peace in such settings. The vast reflective surface also encourages introspection. Seeing the sky below your feet creates a literal and figurative feeling of being between worlds, of having your perspective flipped. It can dissolve the ego's rigid boundaries, fostering a sense of connection to something larger than oneself, the weather systems, the planet, the cycle of water. This is where the beach becomes more than a place. It becomes a state of mind. Artists and poets have long been drawn to this liminal space. The quality of light that diffuse, shadowless, ethereal glow is notoriously difficult to capture, but utterly captivating. It flattens depth in a way that can make a scene look like a painted canvas, blurring the lines between reality and representation. For a photographer, it's a chance to play with symmetry, where a simple composition of a single figure on the wet sand can yield a stunning, minimalist image with double the impact. For a writer, the atmosphere is ripe with metaphor. The cleansing rain, a fresh start. The blurred boundaries, the temporary nature of the reflections, which disappear with the sun or the next tide. The beach becomes a symbol of resilience. It withstands the pounding rain and emerges not battered, but beautified, different, and refreshed. It's a powerful allegory for the human capacity to endure emotional storms and find new clarity and beauty on the other side. Furthermore, this environment often evokes a sense of privileged solitude. Most people retreat from the rain, so you are likely to have this transformed world largely to yourself. This solitude isn't lonely, it's rich and immersive. It allows for a deeper, more personal communion with nature. You can hear your own thoughts, feel the scale of the landscape without the buffer of a crowd. This combination of sensory engagement, metaphorical depth, and restorative solitude makes the post-rain beach a potent therapeutic landscape. It's a natural antidote to anxiety, stress, and the overwhelm of modern life. The act of walking on the firm, cool sand provides rhythmic, grounding tactile feedback. The clean, ionized air feels literally energizing to breathe. Every sense is engaged in a harmonious, non-assaultive way, guiding you into a present moment awareness that is the cornerstone of well-being. In a world constantly shouting for our attention, the beach after the rain whispers, offering a space for quiet wonder, restoration, and a reconnection not just with nature, but with our own inner stillness. To fully appreciate this phenomenon, we must also explore its temporal nature, its exquisite impermanence. The post-rain beach is a masterpiece on loan. The very conditions that create it are actively working towards its end. The wind, the slowly strengthening sun, and the inevitable turn of the tide are all agents of change, making every moment of this transformation uniquely precious. Observing this transition is a lesson in fluid dynamics, thermodynamics, and the relentless cycles of nature. As the clouds break, the first direct sunlight often creates jaw-dropping effects. Sunbeams, known as crepuscular rays or God rays, pierce through gaps in the clouds, their paths made visible by residual moisture and aerosols in the air. When these shafts of light hit the reflective wet sand, they can create localized spots of intense brilliance, almost like spotlights on a stage, illuminating patches of driftwood or a cluster of shales with dramatic effect. This interplay of light and shadow evolves by the minute. The wind is the first great eraser. A steady breeze begins to dry the topmost layer of sand grains. You can watch the mirror recede, shrinking from the dunes back toward the water's edge. The dark, saturated wet sand lightens at its borders, developing a delicate, lace-like pattern of dry, pale sand advancing over the dark. The firm surface underfoot begins to give way to a thin, shifting crust over still damp sand beneath the two-textured experience. The wind also starts to sculpt the drying sand into tiny, nascent ripples, the first rebuild of the beach's characteristic texture. This is where you witness the rebirth of the dry beach from the wet one. Then comes the sun's full force. Evaporation kicks into gear, and you can sometimes see a faint, shimmering heat haze rising from the sand, a visible sign of water returning to the atmosphere. The scents evolve too. The sharp petrichor and ozone gradually fade, replaced by the warmer, salty air, more familiar smell of a drying beach. The biological frenzy also winds down. As the sand dries and the fresh water rinses away, the invertebrates retreat back to their optimal depths, and the birds, their bellies full, become less frantic, settling into preening or resting behaviors. The temporary freshwater rivulets evaporate or are absorbed, their beautiful channels collapsing at the edges as the sand dries. All the while, the tide is on its own immutable schedule. The incoming tide is the final, definitive reset button. It doesn't just cover the sand, it interacts with it in a new way. The seawater, with its different density and chemistry, mingle with the rainwater still in the sand. The wave action smoothest away all the footprints, bird tracks, and erosion patterns, returning the sand to a uniform, damp state, but this time it's saltwater damp, not rainwater damp. The reflective quality returns, but now it's under a thin sheet of advancing water, creating a different kind of mirror, a shimmering, moving one. The tide brings with it a new set of debris, a new arrangement of shells, and a new saline infusion. The post-rain signature is completely erased, absorbed back into the endless cycle of tidal reshaping. This entire process, which can last a few magical hours, is a powerful meditation on impermanence and non-attachment. The beauty is intense because it is fleeting. It teaches us to be present, to observe closely, and to appreciate the moment without clinging to it. For the mindful observer, it's a live demonstration of the Buddhist concept of arnika, the truth of transience. Nothing on the beach, from the grandest cloud reflection to the tiniest bird print, lasts. This can be a deeply liberating realization. It also highlights the dynamic equilibrium of coastal systems. The beach is not a static postcard. It is a living, breathing, changing entity that exists in a constant state of flux between the forces of water, rain and sea and air, wind and sun. The post-rain period is simply one particularly beautiful and revealing phase in that eternal dance. Capturing this transition, whether through time-lapse photography, journaling, or simply quiet observation, connects us to these grand natural cycles in a visceral way. We become witnesses to a daily, yet extraordinary, renewal. Having journeyed through the sensory, scientific, ecological, psychological, and philosophical layers of the beach after rainfall, we arrive at a point of synthesis and action. This isn't just an aesthetic curiosity. It's an invitation to engage with the natural world in a more profound, intentional, and respectful way. So do you become an active participant in this wonder rather than just a passive observer? First, be prepared. Check the weather radar not to avoid rain, but to anticipate its end. Time your arrival for just as the downpour ceases. Wear appropriate footwear that can get wet and sandy, or better yet, go barefoot to feel the temperature and texture changes directly. Bring a camera, even if it's just your smartphone, but also make a conscious effort to simply be without the lens. Sit on a piece of driftwood and just watch the light change for 20 minutes. Practice the art of seeing. Look for the details, the way a single drop hangs from a sea oat stalk, the precise pattern of a bird's footprint, the subtle color variations in the wet sand. Listen to the evolving soundscape. This is a form of active meditation, a deep immersion that yields the greatest restorative benefits. Secondly, become a citizen scientist. Use this time to observe wildlife behavior. Can you identify the different shore birds by their feeding patterns? Notice what the gulls are picking at. Gently turn over a washed-up log and return it to see the tiny ecosystems underneath. Observe the direction and pattern of the runoff streams. This engaged observation turns a walk into a discovery mission, constantly feeding curiosity and knowledge. Thirdly, embrace the creative potential. This is the absolute best time for sand art. The sand holds shapes with perfect definition. Build a complex castle, carve a geometric pattern, or write a message that will be washed away by the tide and act of non-attachment in itself. For photographers, experiment with reflections. Get low to the ground to merge the horizon. Use a polarizing filter to manage glare and enhance cloud definition in the wet sand. Look for leading lines created by rivulets. Capture the human element. A solitary figure in this vast, reflective space tells a powerful story. Fourthly, and crucially, adopt the role of a steward, the rain's cleansing. Effect on the sand is a reminder of our responsibility. Let this be a trigger for a post-rain cleanup. Bring a bag and collect the litter that the rain has exposed and centralized. Those plastic bits washed into the runoff streams are on a direct path to the ocean. Intercepting them at this stage is incredibly effective. Your mindful presence can have a direct, positive impact. Finally, share this perspective. Talk about it. Post your photos with captions that explain the science or the feeling. Challenge the notion that a beach day is ruined by rain. You are now an ambassador for this secret hour, possessing knowledge that can reframe a friend's entire experience of the coast. You understand the chemical poetry of petrichor, the ecological chain reaction of a downpour, the psychological sanctuary of the damp, reflective silence, and the philosophical lesson in its fleeting beauty. This knowledge doesn't diminish the magic, it deepens it. It adds layers of understanding to the awe, making your connection to the place more intimate and informed. The beach after rainfall is a testament to the fact that nature's most breathtaking performances often require us to shift our timing, our expectations, and our pace. It asks for a little discomfort, the rain itself, in exchange for a profound reward. A world remains, a mind refreshed, and a spirit reminded of both the power and the poetry of the elements. So, the next time you see dark clouds gathering over the coast, don't pack up, don't retreat. Be the one who stays, or better yet, the one who arrives. Be the witness to the transformation. Experience the world being washed clean and mirrored back at you in a way that feels both immense and intimate. I want you to go out and find your own post-rain beach. Feel that petrichor. Trace those bird tracks. Marvel at that sky on the ground. and feel your own mind quiet and expand. And when you do, I need you to come back and tell me about it. Share your stories and your stunning photos in the comments below. What did you discover? How did it make you feel? Let's build a community of rain beach enthusiasts right here. If this video shifted your perspective, if it made you see the world in a new, wetter, more reflective light, then do me a huge favor. Smash that like button. It really helps the channel. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the hidden wonders of the natural world. I have so many more of these transformative landscapes to explore with you. And finally, share this video with that friend who thinks a perfect beach day only comes with a sunburn. Blow their mind. Let's change the narrative, one rainy shoreline at a time. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.